Good afternoon to all. Welcome to our webinar series Tech Talk Connect, co-organized by Singapore Fintech Association and Swingvy. Joining us are Association of Financial Advisors Singapore and Fintech Alliance. I'm Cherise, and today's topic is about post-pandemic financial advisory and support for financial institutions and fintech firms, especially in the SME space. So we are honored to have these four speakers with us. Jin, co-founder and CEO of Swingvy. Branson, SFA EXCO member and CEO of ECXX. Mr. Para, President of AFAS EXCO and CEO of J Para Solutions. And Vin, founder of Fintech Alliance. So before we start, let's run through a few housekeeping. So during this session, we have two questions for each speaker, and there will be a panel Q&A at the end of the webinar. So please post your questions along the way and state which panel you'd like to address the questions to. For those on Zoom, there is a Q&A option at the bottom, so please post your questions along the way. And for those on Facebook, please post your questions on Slido. So we have this available, #SwingVSFA, so you can post your question along the way and we will show it live later. Do also leave your email down with your questions, especially those on Slido, so that we can address directly to you for those unanswered questions. Email is important as we will send a recording and slides of the webinar to you after the session ends. So do ensure that your contact details are correct. Let's start the session. So first of all, we have Branson. Branson is currently running a digital asset exchange, ECXX.com, which is the first exchange in Singapore to connect to MyInfo database for quick onboarding, and it is currently seeking to be a fully licensed exchange in Singapore. Prior to this, Branson has 15 years of experience working and leading teams in business information and technology companies, such as Gartner, LinkedIn, Sun Microsystems, spanning across regions in Asia. Branson wears multiple hats, serving on the board for Singapore Fintech Association and a member of Blockchain Association of Singapore. Branson will address on the topic of how to apply and qualify for grants for SME FIs and Fintech firms. Branson, please.
Hi, everyone. Okay, so thank you so much for the introduction, Cherise. Essentially, I wouldn't go too much into the introduction again. Cherise has mentioned quite a fair bit. Basically, I'm representing Singapore Fintech Association today to talk about the fintech grants that most of the startups can get access to. So there are multiple grants available, and let me just go through some of them. But before we go into that, just to give everyone a background, we in SFA, we did a survey back in March. And obviously, everyone knows that this COVID-19 pandemic has caused a lot of distress to some of our startups. And as you can see on the screen, 47.8% of the respondents feel that it has caused a significant impact. Of course, the larger fintechs are able to cope better because of their resources and the depth of the resources, basically. The top three main concerns would be business costs, fundraising, and lead generation. So since then, I think we have all seen in the media, there have been a whole host of grants and funds being announced by MAS. These are some of the grants in terms of the timeline. So on the 8th of April, MAS actually announced a 125 million support package. And this consists of Digital Acceleration Grant, which I'll go into in a bit, Apex Cares, Fintech Self-Assessment Tool. So these are the main stuff that I will be talking about today. But besides this, there are also other funds available. So there's also the AMTD ASEAN Solidarity Fund. There's also a 50 million Razer COVID-19 Support Fund. Another one, which is by AMTD as well, a Global Fintech Fellowship Program, and MES SFA AMTD Fintech Solidarity Grant. So there are a whole host of grants, but for the purpose of this session, I'll just go into the first one, which is the original package announced. So the objectives of the grant is actually very simple. It is to support and enable fintech companies to sustain their operations, right, and manage their cash flows, and also pursue the growth strategies. I think this is of the main concern for many startups, right? How do you sustain this 3 months or 6 months going forward? So first up, let's talk about the digital acceleration. There are 2 tracks in this grant, basically the institution project as well as the industry pilot, right? And this grant is actually available, you can actually claim up to 80% as co-funding for some of the digital solutions. And the specific purpose of this grant is actually to improve productivity, operational resilience, and so on and so forth, right? Now, who is eligible? So Singapore-based FIs, and FIs mean financial institutions with not more than 200 staff. And if you are basically certified by SFA, then you are also able to take part. So the first step to getting access to this grant is basically to get certified by the Singapore Fintech Association. Okay. Which projects or solutions are eligible? As you can see on the list there, I will not read out again, but essentially, things that can contribute to productivity, right? And some of the qualifying categories I will go into in the next slide. You should not be building from scratch some of these solutions, right? And they do not require heavy investment, okay? One caveat is that for the grants to be reimbursed, that means you can actually get reimbursement of up to 80% of the solutions. They must be used for at least 6 months, right? And the grants are actually claimable from February 2020 onwards, right? So if you have started using a solution since January, you can only claim from February onwards. So what are some of the categories that are supported? So there will be cloud services. And I think most of the startups, they have hosting on AWS and so on and so forth. That will be very useful. Communication tools, compliance, and there's a whole long list here, right? So essentially anything that you feel that has helped in your company in terms of productivity, you can actually submit the reimbursement for up to 80% from February onwards, okay? Now, this is basically talking about the institutional project track, okay? You can actually, again, get 80% co-funding, right? And applicants can claim all the costs since February, and this is what I just mentioned. Funding is for 1 year. So the funding will be dispersed upfront, okay? But please allow for up to 4 weeks of processing, right? Because there's a whole long list of things that MES has to go through, including look at your fintech certificate and things like that. Each entity can only claim up to 120 grand during the entire duration of the scheme. Okay, so how do you submit for these grants? Just download the form from MES website, and if you have any other questions, you can also email fintech_office@mes.gov.sg. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, the funds will be dispersed within 4 weeks. Okay. There's also another scheme which is under the industry track. And this industry is actually industry pilot is eligible to Singapore-based financial institutions with not more than 200 staff, right? The criteria is that there must be a minimum of 3 participating FIs, right? And it covers the kind of solution that was presented earlier in the institution project, okay? Same thing, 80% as well. Funding is for 2 years. Reimbursement basis. Okay, there's no overall scheme cap for industry pilot. So that's the difference between industry pilot versus the institutional track. Okay, and each project there's a cap of 100 grand per participating FI. Okay, so I think the spirit of this industry pilot is to encourage FIs to come together and actually try out different solutions. Okay, And same thing, how do you apply? Download the form from MES website, and each participating FI, and this is important, they must submit their own form, okay, with supporting documents. Okay, so the fintech startup should not apply on behalf of the FIs. Okay, so basically, what I've mentioned earlier, those are the grants. There's also another important, tool the MES together with SFA and with the help of our industry partner, PwC, we came up with something called the Digital Self-Assessment Framework, right? The premise of this is that 8 in 10 fintech companies, they want to partner with FIs, right? And startups being startups, it is very difficult for them to conform to very rigorous TRM, which is your technology risk management framework, or even your cyber hygiene, or even the OSPA, which is the outsourcing guidelines. And these are very, very rigorous tools, right? So what we have done is that we have actually, PwC actually looked at these 3 frameworks: cyber hygiene, OSPA, as well as TRM, and we came up with a concise or a smaller scale version of this framework. Okay, and essentially it follows something like this, right? So you actually do a self-assessment, okay, and then you can actually follow through with an independent review with PwC or any other audit firms out there, and then you can actually take it on further to do your full OSPA, SOC2 or SOC3 going forward, right? And what it does is that it allows financial institutions to have the assurance that these startups that are working with me have already considered or looked at the different risks as well as different parameters when they work with me, right? And the reason why we do this is because some of the startups are coming to us and tell us that it's very difficult for them to fulfill all these requirements in order to work with certain startups. Okay. So as I mentioned earlier, it's actually a distillate of 3 different guidelines: the OSPA, which is under the Association of Banks in Singapore, the cyber hygiene, as well as the TRM. Okay. So these are the main stuff that I wanted to share with you. But before you do anything in terms of getting access to some of these grants or even the TRM or this self-assessment framework, I think the first thing to do is to submit your and get your fintech certificate from Singapore Fintech Association. Okay, once you have done that, you can then go on to apply for the different grants, right? So that's the first step you should do, and then you can go on to get access for the rest of our grants. But coming back to this digital self-assessment framework, there are a whole series of workshops that we have organized together with PwC. This will be very, very interesting because it again allows the startup to actually, look at some of the, whether they're in compliance with the guidelines. Yeah, that's all I have today. Over back to you, Cherise.
Thank you, Branson. So Branson, we have some questions from the floor for you. The first question is, how do you define FI? And is the grant open to registered FI with CMS license, or can it be an individual who obtains CMS license in their own respective fields of work, but working as a freelancer?
Yeah, sure. So let me just preface this by saying that I'm not MES. So if in doubt, please refer to MES website for the full definition. But from what I understand is that FIs are financial institutions or companies that have been granted, they are regulated by MES. You are considered FI, right? So for individuals, I'm afraid you cannot apply for the grant. Only companies can apply for a grant, and you must be certified by Singapore Fintech Association. And then thereafter, you can actually download the forms, and submit to MES.
Right. Okay, another question is that are they able to claim the grant over time, or they have to do all at one go?
Oh, you can claim over time. So there's no need to actually submit everything one shot. I think because it's open for a period of time, so you can actually do that. But again, for more information, please refer to MES website for the latest information, just in case there are some changes. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Branson.
Thank you.
Okay, let me share my screen. Next up, we have Vin. So Vin is the founder of Fintech Alliance with more than 10 years of experience as head of compliance and financial advisor support. He aims to create fintech solutions to support financial advisory industry and act as an enabler for financial advisors. Vin will share about his experience through this COVID-19 period, support package for fintech ecosystem, and how to utilize them. Vin, please.
Thanks, Cherise, again. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Vin. I'm the founder of Fintech Alliance. A little bit of background about myself. I've been in the financial advisory industry for more than 15 years now, focusing on compliance, risk management, anti-money laundering, and advisory process. We have set up Fintech Alliance back in 2018 with the aim to create fintech solutions to empower financial advisors in the region. My topic today is actually to share our journey as an SFA member and how we have benefited from all the initiatives by SFA. So let me share a little bit, as a fintech company, what we have been through over the last 6 months. 2019 was an exciting year for us. We started our company in 2018. The first year was a lot of R&Ds, a lot of trials and errors. But 2019 was really the year where we managed to come out with a solid product that we want to launch to the market. And in fact, we have launched it back in June, our Finacle CRM, which is catered to all the financial advisors in Singapore. We've participated in the Singapore Fintech Festival, where we took a booth and exhibited ourselves. That was also the time where we saw the SFA Pavilion at the Fintech Festival, and we were very impressed by it, and which makes us, very curious about what actually have been going on with SFA. So we have this curiosity in us, and we want to be part of the SFA community, and which is why right after the Singapore Fintech Festival, we have submitted an application and joined SFA officially as a corporate member in December 2019. So 2019 itself, towards the end of the year, we successfully launched our product. We have a successful exhibition in Fintech Festival where we got to know a lot of fintech firms in the region. We got to know a lot of the financial advisory firms in the region. And we have very big plans to go to market and regional expansion for 2020. So to us, as a fintech company, 2020 is like, this is our year, right? But unfortunately, right at the turn of the year, the news of COVID-19 hit Southeast Asia, right? Back in November 2019, it was already started back in Wuhan, but the serious impact actually comes to us around the first quarter of 2020, and a lot of uncertainties ensued. We have to shelve our expansion plan. There were concerns also about sales and business continuity, and of course, the most important part, our team's members, their health, and also their income. So that was the main concern that I faced as a founder of the company, as a founder of a fintech company. To stop a business is very simple, but to carry it on and to make sure that everyone in the team has an income stability, even during this crisis period, is the toughest challenge that I faced. And on top of that, as all the fintech companies out there, all of you should know, you have to face the queries from your investors as well. So for me, on my personal experience, the toughest question, even though, I've been through SARS, I've been through the Lehman Brothers incident back in 2008, this is in fact the toughest time that I faced as a founder of a company. How do I lead the team out of this crisis? Anxiety follows. A lot of things are unknown. And to be honest, why is this the toughest challenge? Is because even till now, we don't really know how long this pandemic will last. And we finally found light at the end of the tunnel, because as mentioned by the previous speaker, which is Brian, he has shared a lot of information on the grants, a lot of financing options, a lot of initiatives from the SFA. We are very grateful that we become the part of the SFA community, because we have noticed a lot of actions, a lot of information has been circulated by SFA to help all the fintech startups or fintech companies to survive through this pandemic. There were plenty of webinars on grants. I remember, at the beginning, there were also MAS involvements to share all the application requirement for the DAGs, all the financing options, whether it's funding from Branson or AMTD. SFA themselves also help to facilitate grants application. Okay, there were also a lot of sharing and caring within the SFA community. This particular seminar wouldn't be possible without the support of people like Joshua, Branson from the SFA, and of course one of the most important pillar for this particular webinar is Mr. Lee Tak Wai, whom I want to thank. He is also the head of business insurance from Swingvy, who come together with me and say, why not we do this and share with more people within the fintech community. And of course, just now I think Branson also mentioned, get the fintech certificate. I myself, as a founder of the company, the first thing I've done is actually to apply for the fintech certificate once MAS launched the DAG, because this is very important for us to sustain our cash flow during this particular pandemic. And I think Branson also mentioned about the digital self-assessment framework. This particular framework is very important for fintech companies who intend, to provide fintech services to financial institutions. The digital self-assessment provide an insights on how ready we are in terms of approaching financial institutions and to meet the TRM and outsourcing requirement set out by the MAS. So with all these initiatives, all this support, all these updates coming from SFA, it helps the startup to feel more assured, more secured as well, so that we don't have all this anxiety with a lot of uncertainties. However, knowing all this information is not enough. Action is the key, which is why I want to share with my fellow fintech startups, fintech founders, how do we actually leverage on the COVID-19 support package and to create more opportunities out of it, right? The first thing that we have done actually is to create sales opportunities using the DAG grant, right? MAS launched the DAG back in April, if I'm not mistaken. The intention of it is to accelerate digital adoption within SME FIs, right? And for fintech companies like us, where our major clients are also SME FIs, it indirectly create demands for us within the SME FIs, right? And in turn, it creates more opportunities for fintech companies who would like to serve this particular industry. So to us, rather than a crisis, this particular grant immediately create more demand of our services and our solution, and it brings us more sales opportunities. And which is why when we go around approaching our potential clients, we share with them about this DAG grant and how this DAG can help them to adopt digital solutions, not just for the immediate need, it's also to prepare them to face with the digital transformation after the pandemic is over. Then the second part is cash flow and expenses. For us as a fintech company, our major expenses comes from our headcount. We have a team in Singapore where it basically makes up the 100% or 80% of our expenditure. So with the MAS, SFA, AMTD business sustenance grant, it provides around 20,000 coverage for rental and for salary support. So for us, this actually helped us to alleviate the burden of cash flow, for the next 6 months. And on top of that, MAS DAG, under the institutional Project Tre, fintech certified company like us, we are able to claim up to 120,000 in terms of grant to cover our expenditure. So with 120,000 and also another 20,000 to cover our overheads, it makes up close to almost 140 to 150,000. That helps a lot, right? So for any fintech companies who have yet to obtain your fintech certificate with the SFA, I would suggest you to do so immediately. The next thing I want to talk about is training assistance. Of course, most of the focus under the DAG goes into the grant to speed up the digital acceleration. But there's also a component who actually help firms, whether it's fintech companies or SME FIs, to subsidize a majority of the training fees for IBF accredited courses. So for us, as a fintech certified company under SFA, we are able to claim up to 95% of the course fee for accredited courses under the IBF, right? IBF meaning Institute of Banking and Finance. So for fintech startups there, if you would like to get yourself prepared, to get your staff ready for the next wave, when opportunity really comes, it is good for you to explore all the courses that is available in IBF. There are digital marketing courses. There are also financial advisory related courses. If you would like to serve the industry, I would suggest you to send some of your key team members to attend some of the courses related to the financial advisory industry so that you get to know what is going on with your target client. And this is what exactly we did, right? And lastly, apart from just attending training, we also create business opportunity out of it. How do we do so? We are in talks with training academies, accredited training academies under the IBF, to design training courses to promote the use of our CRM to assist financial advisors in the financial advisory industry. So apart from just marketing our tool, we actually collaborate with training academy to design courses that helps the financial advisors on their sales and productivity process using our tool. So this is one of the opportunity that we have also created out of the MASDAG. And one last thing we would like to talk about today is on collaboration. There are, if I'm not mistaken, correct me, Branson, if I'm wrong, there are about 600 plus fintech companies within the SFA community. Okay, and we have always been, sharing and caring for each other. And for us, we actually have the opportunity to collaborate with another fintech company within the SFA to provide collaboration or strategic partnership to have integrated solution to serve our common customers. So this is one of the example where, where we have the same market segment, same clients, and to design integrated solutions. No doubt it takes more effort, but together an integrated solution provide a much stronger value proposition to the SME FIs that we are servicing. And this is also a core belief that I have, that we are together and we are stronger together when we partner together. So that's all I have today. Thank you everyone.
Thanks, Vin.
Thanks.
So we have some questions for you. One of the question is, have you seen large FIs that are less than 200 employees applying for DAG institution project to support fintech solution?
Yes, currently we are talking to multiple financial advisory firms. They are classified as SME FIs because their headcount is definitely less than 200. So yeah, we have been talking to them and they are quite interested to embark on the industry pilot as well as their own institutional project.
Right. Okay, another question is, the audience liked the sharing that you did with all the grants that you did with Vinegar. Is there any step to advise them on, how to get the links to grants, how they can, what is the first step that they can take? Yeah, your journey.
Okay, the first thing is definitely to visit the website of SFA, Singapore Fintech Association. The application can be done quite easily online. There's a very glaring red button down there, to apply for the fintech certificate. There are two options. Correct me if I'm wrong, Branson. One is to become a corporate member, and you can apply for the fintech certificate for free. The other way is to straight away apply for the fintech certificate with a fee of, if I'm not mistaken, $200. Yeah. So it's quite a straightforward online process, which is, I think SFA make it quite convenient for fintech companies to apply.
All right, thank you so much,
Thank
Vin.
you. Thanks.
So next up, we have Mr. Para. Mr. Para is the CEO and founder of J Para Solutions Private Limited, a licensed financial advisor. He is a 40-year veteran in the financial services industry and has contributed extensively to the growth of the industry. So Mr. Para is the current president of the Association of Financial Advisors Singapore, AFAS, and past president of Insurance and Financial Practitioner Association of Singapore, IFPAS, and the Society of Financial Services Professional, SFSP. Mr. Para will address the topic on what is the future of new normal for businesses. Mr. Para, please.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's a pleasure to spend some afternoon with you all to share with you and what's the future of the new normal for business for most of us here in Singapore and globally. Just to highlight a little bit, this seminar was arranged in collaboration with Swingvy and SFA together with AFAS. AFAS stands for Association of Advisors, Financial Advisors in Singapore. We are basically a licensed financial advisors by MAS, and we do financial planning, risk management kind of situations for the rest of the competing with the big boys out there. Now, what's this current situation we are facing with COVID-19? And everybody's talking about the new normal, what's going to be new normal, but what are the current challenges first? The social distancing and rules limiting the meeting of clients is the biggest challenge that SME FIs are facing currently. Our business is all about engaging clients. Our business is about relationship building with clients. And if we can't see a client face to face and talk about their goals, their aspiration, we find it very difficult to manage business. So what's happening is that with all this thing, our contact time with potential clients and prospects currently is quite weak. Furthermore, working from home is not how we used to work. We all like to be out there, touching each other, engaging each other, and trying to do all this remotely is a big challenge for us. Now, for the small SMEs, it's a bigger challenge because the big boys out there have managed for somehow or other bringing quickly to their advisors out there solutions to be able to engage their clients or their prospects. Now, one of the reasons why we feel that way for small SMEs is opportunity cost. We don't have the kind of tools, equipment, or system to reach out to our clients. We used to be very manual driven. We have little technology or online platform to help us with it. Many of us don't even have cloud to work on it. But the current situation is making us think, what should we do as a small SME FIs to be ready and compete with the big boys out there? But then this comes with the typical senior management issues. We are currently under pressure for revenue, just like what Vin shared. We are all small-time players with not deep pockets. So we need to continue to create revenue models out there to be able to sustain our cash flow. Plus managing workforce. Managing the workforce remotely, I think not only the small SMEs, the big boys are facing the same challenges. How do you manage workforce? How do you know they're productive out there? Are they really working from not work from home? What's the kind of stress they're going through? All these situations, we can't see unless we see them personally. Now, the bigger challenge is the digital transformation. So many things have been said about digital transformation, but how do we engage the right solution provider to come with a solution that help us become more effective and more productive in our business is a big challenge. I'll explain a little bit later on that. And now, obviously, being an FI, cyber hygiene is something that the regulator have been tapping on us to say that please ensure that all your data are secured and everything they need cyber agents taken care of. And with all this, we have this regulatory pressure. We have to ensure that we are compliant with the advisory process, compliance with the reporting that we need to do. And all these are never-ending job for us, the senior management out there. So what are the challenges facing the SMIs in implementing technology, as I mentioned earlier? Technology is out there. We know the solutions out there, but what do we do with it? Now, with the small SMEs like us, we don't have a team of IT department to support us. We as a senior management have put on too many hats. We become the financial controller, we become the technology expert out there, the marketing director, everything in one. We have probably one or two of us helping us to work on this area. Now, so the biggest concern for us is budget and capital allocation. Like I said, we don't have big pockets. So how do we allocate right budget and capital allocation for all the transformation we want to do? Now, even with the DAG grant, I'll explain a little bit later on why DAG grant is not something that everybody is picking on, mainly because of 20% payment still. But one of the bigger problem I have is loss in the cloud. There's so many solutions out there to help us with it, but what do we really need? We need to reach out, lead generation. We need to have regulatory report. How can we do it from the system? How do we have engaged the clients remotely with video recording so that the client 20 years later will not come and say, I didn't remember saying all this or going through this process with you. Now comes, so with so many solution providers out there, we just don't know who to choose. Now comes the big question mark. Both Branson and Win talked about the DAG grant. Yes, we have $120,000 institutional grant and $100,000 industry pilot grant, but all this still comes with 20% down payment or 20% co-payment required from us. So any project with $100,000, $20,000 is still a lot of money for small SMEs out there. So how do we manage this? So we need to be very careful on choosing the right partner to be able to come out with a solution for us. Now, our challenge is this, because the grants are available so openly, everybody knows that $125 million there. Every other solution provider comes out with a solution for us, a proposal for us, costing us $50,000, $60,000, $70,000, $80,000. Question is that if that's the numbers we get to pay to get in the system, sustainability becomes a challenge for us. Do we really want to go through this process of allocating our own resources to come out with this transformation? That's one of the biggest challenges I'm currently facing. We are using the current platform, the current way of working from home and remotely working to reach out to our clients, our SME clients out there who require support in their how to manage their insurance risk management for the employees, whether the coverage they have for their current staff is covered, whether the building is covered. All these are currently being done remotely because I can't see the clients face to face. That's a no-no for us. But with technology in the form of emails and some form of Zoom, we are still able to reach out to the clients. And I'm happy to tell you that at this particular time, my business is still very strong because many of my clients are able to connect with me through emails, through Zoom, so we continue to service them well. So I hope out there, my members out there can still feel comfortable that no matter what, the future is still good for us. Now, in summary, let me just go back what we have been doing. Pre-COVID-19 is all about manual technology, using a lot of pen, paper, and meeting clients. So a lot of manual work is there, and some form of technology has been used over the years. And face-to-face advisory for both servicing and onboarding is the norm. Nobody uses Zoom to talk to clients in the early days, but right now, under the circuit breaker measures, you have to, there's no non-face-to-face is there. We need to either use videophony, Zoom, Skype, Teams to reach out to clients. Now, one of the biggest challenge we have is the legality of legal documents. So remote signing of documents is now becoming a must for us. We can't see face-to-face, so we need to use tools to sign documents remotely. And with this current situation, we are engaging a few providers who can give us documents or solution for remote signing. And then working from home. Our people can't access to our servers so easily. We used to be having the network within the office. Now we need to go into the cloud, and never been comfortable in the cloud in the past because of the technology risk management that we have to put in place. All this put a lot of pressure on us to actually move forward. Now, so what's in for post-COVID-19? When is it going to end? Only God knows. Nobody seems to have an answer for us when COVID-19 will end. So in the meantime, working from home is going to be the new normal. Using technology to service clients and acquire new clients is definitely going to be something that we have to embark on, and taking advantage of the non-face-to-face client engagement. I trust at this particular time, the traveling time that we used to have to meet up clients, 1, 2, 3 hours to meet clients, is no longer an issue. Everybody can fix a time on top. 3 o'clock meeting, 3 o'clock timing is there. So that's one major advantage we have. Plus, we don't have long hours or long chit-chat time to have coffees and all before we begin our session. So these are some of the advantages I see of a new normal. We're going to be more productive, provided we have the right tools to manage our business. And with that, I must say that our Managing Director from MAS, Mr. Ravi Menon, correctly put that the financial sector is well plugged into digitalization. Those financial institutions that adopt deeper end-to-end digitalization were able to use digital platforms for business operations that today are conducted in person or on paper are going to a strong competitive advantage. So friends out there, we are looking for solutions from the SFA members. Our members out there is also requiring some support collaboration, and we believe together we can grow and become better. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Para. So Mr. Para, some questions from the floor for you. The first one, what have you implemented so far to solve your challenges, and how long did it take for you to evaluate the vendors for your company?
That's a good question. Being a small company, and in my case, being the only one to make decision together with my other advisors, I decide how much to spend the money on. So, but choosing the right people was a challenge for me. Which partner do I collaborate with? So right now I've been talking to 3 partners, 3 solution providers, all trying to help me in one area of my system, of my processes. And hopefully one is already submitted, another one is on the way, third one is probably in the next 1 week. And this, again, like I said, it's the 20% that we're talking about is always a question in the mind. How do I manage that? And I hope the SFA members don't think that 125 million is available. Let's go and get all this money from these people out there. Be reasonable. We don't have deep pocket out there.
Thank you. Okay, another question is that how do you actually identify which are the right tools, digital tools for your company? How would you know which is the right one? Yeah.
Right. It's going to be trial and error. But of course, we are talking to people who have, like what the DAG fund is, you cannot start from scratch. We have to use solutions already provided out there. So these people are coming to us, have already got solutions that will fit into my business. Now we are in the financial advisory business, so I want wealth management. We are in risk management, so I want something to reach out to people to talk about it. Then comes this Zoom and all this kind of video conferencing. How do I ensure that recording is taking place? So I'm investing in those areas actually.
I see. Thank you so much, Mr. Para. So
it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to share.
Thank you. Next one, we have Jin. So Jin is the co-founder and CEO of Swingvy, one of Asia's fastest growing HR tech startups. As co-founder and CEO, Jin leads business development, investor relations, and building a strong company culture to attract and retain top talents. Before Swingvy was founded, Jin worked at a security software provider Unlab as regional manager for Southeast Asia and at South Korea internet giant Naver. Jin also co-founded 2 other startups, online real estate platform Zibro and a tutor matching platform called Samtong. Jin will address the topic, how can HR Fintech help SME FIs and Fintech firms prepare for remote work? Jin, please.
Right. Thank you for the introduction, Cherise. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Jin, co-founder and CEO of Swingvy. So today I'd like to talk about how HR tech can help companies and organizations to prepare the new normal. So my session is not an informative session, so you can just lay back and enjoy my session. So let me start by sharing some interesting facts to understand better about the situation we have. In these days, about 3.5 billion people, which is 50% of all population, are employed. So like half of the population are working in the companies or organizations. So now I want to ask you one question. So what is the most important problem in this world that can bring the biggest impact to the people around the world? I like to say it's organization. Organization is the most important problem in this era. So here is the complex organization chart. So let me give you another question. So what's the year that you think this org chart is made? Give me your number. Maybe you can write your answer in the chat room. I guess you already give your answer, or you already thought your answer. So here is the answer. It's 1910. This is the first organization chart to use boxes and lines. So it's from an old Pacific Railroad in the US. So this is 110 years old. And what I find fascinating about this is if I show you a picture of literally anything else, a shoe, a house, a phone, a car, a dress, you will be able to do carbon dating better. But when I show you the main instruments by which we visualize all of this human labor, the org chart that we are watching right now, you just kind of lost because there is a century of range since this is invented. So we can say that one of these two assumptions are true. Either it's so perfect, nothing to change, or we can all go back to work, or there is something intractable and quite hard to change. I hope you to sit back and think about it for a second. I'd like to show you two graphs. So let's take a look at these two graphs. So this is the status quo of the companies. What a disaster, right? I'm not going to talk too much about this, but these graphs essentially mean we can survive long and we can make more profit with more stuff. And we've seen the same thing happen on the productivity growth. So if we track the productivity growth of the last century, it has gone down, down, down. We are inventing and investing in incredible stuff, but yet we're not able to make something more per hour than we were 10 years ago or 20 years ago. So that was the status quo of the companies. And then we faced the outbreak of global pandemic. COVID-19 has impacted all the industries without any exemption in this terrible status quo that we already have. So whether we want it or not, there will be changes in our organizations, which are a new normal. So I like to take some time to talk about these two perspectives, macro view and micro view. So first of all, we will have a new era. This is triggered by pandemic, and that is remote first era. That's what I want to say. In the tech industry, there has been major shifts for the past decades. PC first, internet first, mobile first, cloud first, and now it's remote first era. Perhaps some of you may say this is too radical if we want to call it remote first era, but I believe more than 50%, half of tech, service, and especially financial industry, which is the mainstream of the world economy, will adopt remote work in their organization just in the next few years. So most of them will adopt a partial remote work by giving work from home policy as an option. That will be the majority. And few of them will do the full remote work without offices. It can be possible. So having two work environments will be the default in the next decades, work from home and work from office. So when it comes to the microscopic view, we can think about two levels of response to COVID-19. So I like to put two rings, ring first and ring second. So ring first, or the first ring, is individual response to COVID-19. So these are something we already been through: self-isolation, social distancing, or hygiene and sanitizing will be the ring as an individual response to COVID-19. Then what about the organizational perspective? When we call ring 2 as organizational response to COVID-19, there will be 3 points that we can highlight: excelling remote employees, empowering remote work and teams, rapid resource redeployment. Those will be kind of actions and response as a company or organizations. So as you can see, most of response to COVID-19 for organizations are actually HR's actions. So we will see that HR will be one of the most exciting functions and roles in our organizations to evolve and adapt a new normal. So I believe that HR is at the very pivotal point where it is now going to lead, reshape, and drive not only for the new normal, but the future of work in a lot of organizations. So it's a kind of HR is on the stage. So now let's talk about some substantial topic by taking a look for a specific level. So if a remote work environment will be a new normal, or one of the major crisis management plan of like middle-sized companies, then what should we do? There are 4 important points that we need to consider when we implement remote work environments. So the first one is keep your culture alive. Do you have any office traditions like end of week happy hour? To keep your employees aligned or engaged, we recommend setting up the remote call, like where everyone can get together on the video chat. Same goes for keeping your tribes active. So do you have any yoga club? Then maybe pick a YouTube yoga workout for everyone to do together. The second one might be offer training for managers. We're all adapting to this new COVID-19 reality as it's happening. So take the time to sit with managers and explain new protocols to them so they can do the best support their teammates. This will both take some pressure of you and help make sure that all employees are getting the same information, and with you and your team acting as a single source of the truth. So the third one will be sensitive to your employees. Do you have employees who are unwell or taking care of loved ones? We recommend to checking in on them and make sure they have everything they need to perform well, and of course, stay healthy. I like to highlight the last one. Last but not least, the fourth point for remote work environments is establish company-wide online protocols. So this is the most important point. That's what we believe. In order to cover remote work or work from home or any new normal, company must switch and adopt cloud-based tool first. It requires one-time resource, that's true, to implement a new online protocols and process. But eventually, adapting a new tech in the company will increase the whole organization's productivity. So in this era, moving to the cloud-based tools is not about possibility, it's necessary. So in this perspective, there are several crucial points how HR tech providers can help organizations for the new normal. So I can give like 3 points as a summary. So the first one can be enable the remote HR process and protocols. That means when there is a new joiner, even though we are doing work from home in this COVID situation, then how are we gonna onboard them? Or there is a resignee, how are we gonna offboard them when we do the full remote working? So that's something why we need HR tech in our organizations. Just like Mr. Para mentioned about signature. So how are we gonna do e-signature, or how are we gonna process all this resigning process or onboarding process? The second one is pay your employees in time, anywhere, any place. If we use on-premise system for HR team or HR managers, how are we going to process the payroll in time, which is crucial to operate the business? So that's why we need to implement and run by online protocols, which is HR tech. And the third one is keep employees informed and engaged. If there's any new announcement of the company, then how are we going to inform to the employees? Not only just using the email, if they have one HR platform or one HR place that we can share or we can give the information, that's something how we can keep employees informed and engaged better. So adopting HR tech will give a way to us to evolve and adapt in the time of COVID-19, in the kind of time of post-COVID-19. So the new normal is a topic that's certainly getting the increasing amount of attention in the news media, in the conversations. And based on my experience, the topic is dominated by fear and anxiety, because most of the idea of the new normal are related to the technology. That's true. But I also here to say that there's another big dimension of the new normal that is not getting the attention, but I believe it needs to. And that is the wave of the new normal will help us to fill in the chasm between all the adopters and majorities. This is the technology adoption life cycle. And this is a common pattern. There is a huge chasm or time gap between early adopters and majorities. When we have this kind of pressure or push from the market or situation, something like COVID-19, actually there is a bright side too. It will reduce the chasm or the gap between early adopters and majorities. So if we say it's inevitable to adopt the technology to prepare the new normal, then we can think in a different way that it is actually helping us to ride on the wave faster. So I like to throw an image that I can encourage us to think about: factory and laboratory. And I hope you to ask this question again and again. How can you make our organization be like a lab and less like a factory? That's something I remind every day to myself, and also I like to encourage you to think about. So in that perspective, I believe the new normal is the right movement and action to the future of work. The organization that have the strongest workplace culture and environment will survive and even thrive in the post-pandemic working world. Because in the end, people matter. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Jin. Okay, so we have some questions from the floor. First up, we have, what do you think the balance is for remote first era for business? To completely remove physical office or to have a mature work from home policy and still retain an office?
I like to say there is no right answer for this, but I believe the majority of the organization will adopt, we're gonna keep the office, physical office, and then we're gonna adopt a partial remote work. So the reason why we call still is a remote first era is because when we start to adopt the remote first policy, even though is an optional policy, but still organization or business, we need to prepare remote work environments. So my answer is the reasonable action that we can take, or majority of organizations, is we keep the physical office, but also we prepare remote first environments. It's not only for the productivity. It's a very important point as a crisis management plan. What we're gonna do whether there is a second pandemic. So I believe that will be the majority.
Right. Okay, the second question is adopting technology for HR processes, like from manual process, difficult? Usually how long it takes?
You mean when we use HR tech?
Yes.
Yes, there is no specific or like fixed comparison, but based on our data from our customers, when they adopt a new HR tech from paperwork or Excel file or manual HR practices, they can save 80% of their costs, 50 to 80% of their costs, and also they can save 30 to 40 hours per month. So when we say time saving is another part of the cost saving, then we can say we can save a lot of time, about almost one person's full-time work.
Right, thank you, Jin. Okay, so now we are opening up the floor for our audience Q&A to all panelists. So let me share my screen. Yeah. So these are the questions that we have from Slido. So keep the questions coming in. You can just scan the QR code or go slido.com, #SwingvySFA. We will take the questions from here one by one. So let's see the first question. So let's just start from the top. Yes, for Branson, what is the approval process like and how can the funds be transferred to company?
Yeah, so I think so like what I mentioned earlier, the first step is to get certified, and then what you can do after that is to submit all the necessary documents together with the fintech certificate to MES, and they will start processing. Give them about 3 weeks. I guess sometimes they process faster, but then it will hit your bank account after that. Yeah.
Thank you, Branson. Next question, how was the grant transaction to companies like? Is it by batches? Maybe we can let Vin answer that based from the experience that he shared.
I think this question, I think this question just now Branson has also answered previously during his presentation. They can submit by batches. So you need not like at one go submit everything. You can go by, as and when you think you have accumulated certain expenses and you need to file for a claim, you can do so.
Right. Yeah. Okay, thank you, Vin. So the next question we have, does the grant offer applicable to new tech startups, and does it extend to foreigners? I think that is a question for Branson as well.
Yeah, so you must be a Singapore-based company, so private limited in Singapore. If you say new, it depends. I would say one of the criteria for you to be certified is that you must have a minimum viable product, MVP. It should be working. If you are just starting off and you just have an idea, then I'm afraid that would not be applicable. Yeah, that's the main thing. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Branson. For the next question is for Mr. Para. What is your advice for financial companies to sustain financial capabilities short-term and long-term?
That seems to be like a $64,000 question. It all boils down to current cash flow. How strong are you in? With the current situation, I think many of us have got manpower costs to pay, even though there's government subsidies on that or job support there. But ultimately, it's about you managing your cash flow at this time. And obviously, the banks are there prepared to give some loans to us. But all these will come in with your revenue generation. If you don't generate revenues, no matter whether it's short-term or long-term, you're going to not be around if you don't have the revenue. So currently I can manage probably the next 6 months from our organization with the current situation. After that, I really need to ensure that I generate revenue. So this is where my tools I'm going to empower with from people can generate enough income for us to maintain the operation. So whether it's short-term or long-term, it's cash flow. Many good companies are closing down now because they don't have the cash flow. They don't have funding. And if there's no sales, they cannot keep sustaining the business for too long. So many financial companies may also not be around in the long haul. Only time will tell where you're going to be 12 months, 24 months from now.
Thank you, Mr. Para. The next question from Kiran. What is your prediction for SME FIs and Fintech landscape in Singapore in terms of sustainability in the months to come now that we're going into phase 2? Can we have maybe Mr. Para to address this? Or we can open up to all the panelists as well.
I think that was answered in my earlier question already, that survive this, you have to really see where your cash flow is all about, how you're going to maintain your operation. If you don't have the funding, business is going to be there. It's just some of us be doing better. Some of us will just say, let me go and join another organization. Because the small SMEs, if they don't have the wristband, they are definitely going to say, let's join partnership. So there may be collaboration taking place. Because to maintain all these solutions, even though currently, one thing I'm going to remind everybody here, even though there's funding coming in, it's only for the current 2 years. After that, the subscription costs, the maintenance costs all need to be paid. So if I don't factor all those in, then it becomes a white elephant to me if I don't use this after 2 years. So I got to make sure that whatever I'm going to do now, the landscape obviously is changing, but I'm positive with the right planning, it will, for people like us, to survive that.
Thank you, Mr. Para. The next question of, does government offer claims for staff training? I remember earlier on, Vin actually shared about training that he had for his staff. So maybe Vin can take this question.
Yep, I can answer this. Actually, for the IBF side, because we are FinTech certified, IBF provide on top of the 95% credit for the course fee, they have also this thing called Training Allowance Grant, TAG, $15 per hour for staff training. So for every company sponsored staff, under whether you are SME FIs or you are FinTech certified companies, yes, there's a $15 per hour for your staff training. Yes.
Thank you for sharing, Vin. Okay, so the last question that we see here is, what's the transition time like to migrate to Cloud HR? So I think it's a transition time to actually migrate into a Cloud HR. And this person, Kiran, she has 10 employees currently using manual, and she wants to know if this is claimable. So maybe Jin can take this question about the migration.
Yes. We have customer success team. So whenever our customer onboard in Swingvy, we check whether they have using other platform or not. If our customer is coming from manual HR practice, definitely we can say it's less than an hour. We provide the bulk upload template to our customer. So the only thing our customer needs to do is to upload all employees' information through our bulk upload templates. And whenever our customer have some questions about how to run all HR process by Swingvy, we provide training on onboarding and training session by our customer success team.
Right. Thank you, Jin. Yeah. So earlier on, I think Branson also shared a list of solutions that can be claimable. One of them being its cloud solutions. So Branson, correct me if I'm wrong, or if I'm correct. With if they transit to a cloud HR, will they be able to claim just any cloud HR tag?
So as long as it's under productivity solutions, I think that should be not a problem. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Branson. So the last questions to open up to the floor. What is the most important thing other than cash flow to take note of for the businesses now during the period of uncertainty? Like any advice you can give businesses or FinTech in particular?
Sherry, can you come again?
Yeah.
Since we cannot see on the screen.
Yeah, okay, sure. Because we take the Q&As from also the Zoom itself. So what is the most important thing other than cash flow to take note of for the businesses now during this period of uncertainty? Is there anything for businesses to consider in this kind of uncertainty, this new remote work and new change of environment? Is there any advice that you can leave with all these businesses and business owners here?
Maybe for me to share a bit first.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. For me, I think the mental health of the staff is very important now. You know, we are all humans. We are so used to, you know, the face-to-face, the physical interactions, as mentioned by Mr. Para just now. So last time when we were in office, we would have, you know, lunch session, chit-chat, you know, gatherings, all these things, even after work, happy hours, right? Now with all this circuit breaker, you know, the potential of the COVID-19 being, you know, another 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, everything is an unknown. So with everyone isolated, how do we feel we are connected? That is, I think, the most important thing. for my organization or for our team. That's why we organize things like, every week, on every Friday, we have a virtual happy hour where, 2 hours, we just chit chat, talk about everything that you have faced. Because some of our team are stuck at home alone. You can't go out. So the only interaction you have is, with your colleagues is this kind of peer support where during happy hour, virtual happy hour, you share and then peer support and care for each other.
Yeah. Thank you, Vin. If I want to add another different perspective, beside of cash flow and mental health is I encourage all the business owners or employers or any one person in charge of the team or organization to change the mindset of my team or our employees about the new normal. We shouldn't give any unrealistic hope to the people that we can totally go back to previous stage. So nobody knows whether there will be another pandemic or not. So I think we need to change our mindset about new normal. It's not an investing or it's not a temporary thing. It can be permanent change in our working environment. So taking care of cash flow, taking care of mental health, but also give the right information to accept the change will be the important thing.
Yeah, thanks, Jane.
Yeah.
We have actually one more question from Zoom from Joanne. She asked if is there any difference between BGG excluding wages and DAG expenses claims?
Yeah, Branson, yeah.
Yeah.
So, so there are some differences. I think Joanne actually mentioned the main stuff, which is some of the wages can be claimed. Besides that, there will be also professional services, hardware and software. But overall, there's a cap of $80,000. There's also 100% internship funding, right? So you can actually claim up to $1,000 per month for interns, and up to $20,000 for fintechs with more than 30 staff. If you have 30 staff and lesser, fewer than 30 staff, there will be up to $10,000. So all these differences can be found on our website, Singapore Fintech Association.org.
Thank you, Branson. So we have come to the end of this webinar, Tech Talk Connect. A very big thank you to our 4 panelists, Jin, Branson, Mr. Para, and Vin, for your time to share and advise businesses amidst these tough times. So we also like to thank you all for joining us today at Tech Talk, and I hope you have good takeaways from this session. So we'd like to bring more series of Tech Talks to you, so do keep a lookout for it at our Swingvy's LinkedIn and social media platforms. All right, so we will also share a recording and slides of this webinar and reach out to you on the rest of the questions for those which we could not address live or even those who post on Facebook directly. So please ensure to leave your contact details and email correctly and we can get back to you. All right, so thank you so much for the panelists.
Thank you, Cherise.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. All right.
Take care. Bye.
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 Swingvy.